All right, we are back today with the Yamaha Raptor 50, this cute little machine. What ended up happening is in the previous video, we diagnosed what was wrong with it. We had fuel, we had spark, and then we checked compression, and the compression was at about 90, if I remember right. And so we ended up pulling off the head, and it turned out that the middle rings on here were completely seized, and I got it off. They're not on there now, but that was what happened. Pretty sure that it's because the air filter was so dirty. There was a bunch of ladybugs in here, and pretty sure it sucked it up and then clogged up the ring inside of there, which caused the lack of compression. But otherwise, this bike seemed like it was perfectly good to go. So today, the goal is to get the new rings on there, put the head back on. We got our gaskets, we got everything. Get our air filter back on there, and hopefully we'll have this thing back up and running. So let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so first things first, I went ahead and removed the oil rings from the middle, or the final section here. And next up, we're going to just clean this off best we can. The piston looks really good. There's no play on the crank at all, up and down. So there's absolutely no reason we can't just throw this right back on with some new rings and new gaskets, and she shouldn't run. So yeah, let's go ahead, and I'm just going to hit this with a bunch of carb cleaner, and then afterwards wipe it off really well. And then usually I just put a lot of oil inside of there, make sure that the rings move freely, that there's nothing still caught up in there. You don't want any of that remaining dirt to somehow get up in there and then cause it to seize again. So I'll just do that real quick. All right, I got the piston all cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the mating surfaces here between the cylinder and the case here. So I'm just taking a razor, clean that up. Nothing crazy. All right, I got this surface pretty well cleaned. Probably took longer than any of the bigger bore ones because it's so tight in there, and with these posts in the way, it's just kind of tricky to get around all these little areas and around the piston. And so honestly, that took me like 20-30 minutes just to get this freaking clean. So next we'll clean up the head and the bottom of the head. All right, we got our head ready and our cylinder all ready. Keep them nice and clean now. All right, now that we have all our surfaces clean and our piston clean, we're going to go ahead and start to put our rings on. It's going to be tricky to film because it is in a tight spot, but I wanted to leave this on. I don't need to mess with it. Just get our rings on there. I did notice, let's see if it'll focus. There's like a chunk right there. Looks like it got kind of smashed on something up there. Very curious how that came about. But all right, our little baby rings are here. All right, I'm going to attempt to get this ring in there. There is like zero clearance here. Uh-oh. This thing won't even go in. Yeah, it's crossing big time. That's interesting. It's a much bigger ring. Let me check my part number, but that's definitely not even close to fitting. Well, sadly, the way that my parts thing laid it out, I clicked the rings on the diagram and it brings me straight to the code, and I pulled up this one, but unfortunately this is the 0.5 millimeter bigger bore rings. I don't know why when I clicked it on the diagram it took me straight to oversized rings, but unfortunately I do not have the standard rings, so yeah, gotta wait another week. All right, you know what? I found the rings that were in it, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? The middle ring really was just kind of half stuck. You know, like part of it wasn't expanding and the rest was, so it just wasn't giving it the compression it needed. So honestly, I don't see any reason. Like I've looked over it, I can't find any damage on the rings. There was no damage on the cylinder. I really don't see why we cannot just run these again. I mean, other than it's not recommended, but for a little Raptor 50, honestly, it shouldn't be an issue. I'm pretty confident we can throw these right back in and she will run just fine. So what I'm thinking is I just got to figure out the top versus bottom ring, and I was looking at the diagram here. So one of them has a single bevel, and this one looks like no bevel on that side, and then this one has a bevel. So this would be your top or your middle ring. As far as I can tell, it has a single bevel aiming toward the top, and then your top ring, which is not here, it's inside the cylinder. This one is double beveled. It's like has a bevel on both sides. So as far as I can tell, this should be your top, this should be your mid, and you got your oil rings. So let's go ahead and check our gaps real quick, and as long as those check out, I think we're good. So let's try it. Well, I'm quite sad about the ring gaps I'm seeing here. On the one, I'm getting like 0.25 millimeters, and on the other, it's like I think almost 35. Let me take this one out real quick. And spec is like at most 20 millimeters, and I think I'm getting close to 35 on this one, which is like, okay, not quite 35. All right, so sadly, after checking this, it was definitely way out of clearance. So I ended up having to order new rings and wait a whole nother week. So yeah. All right, so I put the newer ring on there, and you can see just how tiny that gap is. I need to get some feeler gauges in there and see if it's too small, because that sucker's itty bitty. It's supposed to be anywhere from 0.08 to 0.20 millimeters. So let's make sure she's within spec real quick. All right, so the ring gap I'm getting anywhere from 0.08 to 0.10. So it's at the very smallest end on the gap size, which is pretty much perfect. That's how it should be. So we should be good to go and put this on with the new rings. So let's go ahead and do that. Rings are one of those things where like you have to make sure you don't get dirt on anything. You get one grain in there, sometimes you'll fight that grain for like 20 minutes taking that ring off. All right, I finally got all three of these rings on. Now the final step is to make sure your gaps are set correctly. So all right, now the spacing's correct, and then we just got to find our bottom one and see where it's at in relation. It's pretty good. So there we go. Now the entire oil ring is aligned as it should be, and now we can work on the two compression rings. Okay, from the diagram, from what I can tell, the single bevel ring is your middle ring, and it goes with the bevel aiming aiming upwards on the piston. So my bevel is on this side, so it should be like this. We should be good. And it opens up all the way and closes all the way. That's what you want. Before, it couldn't do that. So now it'll close pretty much all the way in there. And this is the easiest ring to get on there, arguably. And that's it. And then all you do is gap your rings opposite of each other. So we will do one on this side and the top one on the other side, just like that. And now we are ready to put on our cylinder. All right, next we have our base gasket going on. These are literally $12 for OEM, which is kind of cool. Very cheap. Cam chain, run it through there. Piston, just like that. All right, next is the cylinder, which we cleaned up already. Make sure we don't lose any of our dowel pins. 2 on each side. Now we have to compress our tiny rings as they go in, making sure they don't get hung up. Which on this little 50cc is quite easy to do. There it goes. All right. Nice and smooth. Grab our cam chain, pull it through. Drop our cylinder. This just doesn't look like it's lining up with that hole at all. I'm trying to figure out what we're... Ah, there it goes. All right. All right, now we got the cylinder on. All right. Next up is our head gasket. Once again, $12 for an OEM head gasket. It is so nice. But that's because it's 50cc, so, you know, not much to it. Chain through there, just like that. Okay, Raptor 50 cam chain guides placement. This one was correct and popped out. I don't know why he popped out. He was just fine. Sits right there in the groove. This one sits way back on the upper end, and you can tell when you're in about the right spot because the height is just about an inch longer than that one. Then when you're coming in with your head, you feed your cam chain and you simultaneously make sure that this cam chain guide goes up into its groove. There's a groove in this head that it slides into. And then once you close it, it's trapped in there. So that's your upper cam chain guide, and your lower sits in the notch that's between the head and the cylinder. So finally got that one figured out. Not too bad. I just have never done it before, so it was a little bit goofy for me. All right, now we can work on the cam gear. So I just want to make sure I am at top dead center. The line is right. The line is off right now. So I'm just going to keep going until the cylinder doesn't move upwards when I twist it left. So right about here is top dead center. And then you have your cam gear. This notch sits right in the groove of the cam right here. And so you want that and that notch in this line lined up with this little nubbin. Oh, it's much tighter now. Oh, I can't reach it. Interesting. All right, so the cam chain tensioner is right here. Go ahead and pop that off. Spring assembly. All right, it looks like this holds in the actual tensioner, which looks like a 10 millimeter. Okay. So it's got a Phillips head on the bolt. So I don't need to take this one off. Really, we can just take a Phillips to that to undo it. I'm going to assume it's going to be a JIS Phillips. Okay. And that will loosen up the bolt that holds the tensioner in there. Okay. Never mind. I was able to use just like a little pick to just slide it right out. Interesting. So this is not like any other tensioner I've had. I feel like it's missing something. Okay. I believe this piece sits with pressure on it, and then you tighten it down to keep pressure on it, if I'm not mistaken. So essentially, when you put it back together, so right now, there should be no tension. Let me move my light. All right, this is how I think it works. So right now, there should be no tension on here. This should be easy to go on if I'm right. Yeah, okay. All right, so top dead center. Top dead center. I don't know if that's top dead center. That actually might be wrong. I'm gonna have to check that real quick. I think we're good. I think we got it all lined up. So this is top dead center. This line's matching this line. Now we can put our cam bolt on there. Just a nut and bolt. Like so. Now we should be able to torque this down. All right, looks like this gets torqued down to 14 foot-pounds. And we're going to need something. I can probably hold this while I do it. Be easier with my right arm, but I can't get to my right arm. Okay. All right, we got our cam bolt on there. Now we need to get our tensioner back on there. Right in there. And then you can put this guy on. Keep your pressure on there. Okay. Now we can tighten our cam adjuster. It should hit firm. There we go. And then you put your cap on. All right. Now we are in time. We have our camshaft synced up with our crankshaft. We should be good to put our head bolts on. I think I'm going to take care of this while I'm here, though. This bolt was completely shredded when I tried to take it off. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of this. Let's do some PB Blaster real quick. And I'm hoping, now that I have more access to it, that I can just use a pair of vice grips to get it off. I'm not sure this is going to work. Wish I had a better angle here. It's really not much to work with. Oh, gosh. Oh. It already looks like, yeah, it's coming right out. Cool. Well, that was lucky. I don't know at what point that came free, but that made it much easier. All right, next up is our head bolts. There are 4 washers. They're pretty thick washers that go on top for your nuts. And then you have your 4 head nuts that go on top, which just cracks me up. These things are so tiny. Got my 4 head nuts on there. All right, now we can do our head nuts. Going to be at a crisscross pattern at 8.7 foot-pounds. All right, double check them all. All right, that is all the head nuts. And now we have the 2 other head nuts that go down here. One goes right here. I have to take this off to do that. There we go. Well, this is how you know it's cold out. My my work soap is all frozen up and crystallized. Dang it! All right. Got a new battery here for the Raptor 50. This cute little thing. Look how small that is. That's crazy. Little baby battery. Let's go put this on. I feel like that should be bigger. But I ordered it specifically for this quad, so that kind of sucks. Okay. Now she should turn over just fine. All right. All right, we're going to do a quick compression check. Looks like we got all the way up to 135, and that's just pushing it on with this, not even with the the threaded type. So looks like we're gonna be good. Before we had 90, now we're at 135, if not more. So I'm excited. That means it was definitely the rings being way overworn. Gonna go ahead and put everything back together. At this point, I think we should be good. It means there's no valve issues or head issues. So really, just got to hook up the intake, the carburetor, and the exhaust back up. And I think she's going to be a runner. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so when I got this, this bolt was like completely stripped. I ended up having to grind it out. And I think the other one is down here on the ground. Yeah, the head came completely off.
And yeah, these guys just weren't on there very well. They were already pre-stripped. So went ahead and ordered 2 new bolts. So we're going to go ahead and throw those on real quick. So that'll be nice and clean for the next person. Much better looking. All right, that's much better. Break this zip tie now. Get rid of that. Now we can hook our intake back up. Alright, intake is back on. Carburetor's hooked up. Gonna have to replace this fuel line real quick. Should just do that now, I guess. Then get the gas tank on there. So we broke this fuel line when we were taking it all apart. Just need to make a duplicate real quick. Alright, luckily I had some Briggs & Stratton fuel line, and this should work out just fine. So we'll take this and we'll smack this on real quick. Alright, next we gotta get the exhaust back on. So I gotta work this guy. Alright, I got that where I want it. I'm gonna have to bolt the back bolt real quick. Alright, I mounted this guy just loosely so that I can work this exhaust in. I'll get her in eventually. Not too bad. It just was fighting me a little bit. Alright, just 2 10mm bolts, or nuts to tighten down. That one snug, and then we'll go to the other side and then tighten them both up. Alright, so we got the intake and we got the exhaust hooked up. Everything's good there. The head is torqued down. Got our cam chain on there correctly. We know timing's good. We've already turned her over. She turns over fine. So pretty much all we have left is to get the gas tank on there, get fuel hooked up, and hook up our spark plug coil here. And hopefully she's going to run, baby. So let's go ahead and get the gas tank on here real quick. Alright, so we got the new fuel line. Hooks up right there. It's kind of dark. Got the new NGK CR7HSA going in. Hooked up our coil wire. Alright, so we got the electric on there. We have fuel to the carburetor. And we have compression because we tested that. So the only thing left to do is we need to get the air filter stuff all hooked up. So let's do that real quick. Alright, so when we bought this thing, the air filter was just completely shreked. It was tons of ladybugs in there. I'm pretty sure that's the reason it jammed up that second ring on the piston. So went ahead and got the OEM ring here, or OEM filter. Let's go ahead and open this up and put this baby on. These are pre-oiled, which is kind of nice. I don't know if it's because it's for kids or what, but they made it a little simpler and oiled these. Imagine it goes screen, filter, and then this guy. Yeah. 2 bolts that go here. And then you just take this, put it down, and stick that over just like that. It's pretty simple. Just like that. And you got your front piece. here's 2 spots here that slide in. This one is broken. That's unfortunate. I guess while I'm at it, I might as well fix this too, since I already got my gun out. My plastic welder. Snip all our little end pieces. Okay, I'm gonna grind these real quick since I want this side to look the best. I don't really care about the back since you don't see it. Okay. Because right now it's very ugly. And it will be ugly, but it'll just be less ugly. Yeah, it might be as good as it's going to get. This one is a lot harder to hide your crack on than a lot of the other ones I do, but at least structurally it's pretty strong, so we'll call it at that. Alright, now we can put this back on. And this guy goes on. Nice! That's a lot better than I thought. Alright, we got fuel to the carburetor. We have the coil hooked up. We have spark. We have compression. This thing should run. Now's the moment of truth. Will she run? Yes or no? Here we go. I think we need it neutral. Let's give it a little choke. It seems to have a little bit too much fuel. I revved it and it kind of was sticking, so maybe either the carburetor's a little dirty and gummed up, or it's running too, is it too lean? Yeah, because it's just kind of wanted to stick on the throttle, so I definitely probably need to get in this carburetor and check out what's going on there, but she's definitely running. Yeah, I'm actually super happy. She was very quiet, just as you would kind of expect, but blowing a little bit of smoke out the back, but I put quite a bit of oil in there just to make sure that the cylinder was all smooth and that the first start would be fine on the rings. So I'm sure most of that will blow out as we go a little bit further along. But I think I'm going to have to take that carburetor off because it definitely was sticking quite a bit. I'll mess with it a little bit more. We'll see. Well, most of it looks to be these two 10mm bolts and the little clamp here. And then you got, obviously, your throttle coming down through there, but pretty simple to take off. Shouldn't take too long. There we go. That was so easy. So the slide itself isn't sticking. You can kind of see it with the throttle. It's not really moving, so I'm going to check inside here, see if that idle jet is jammed. Oh, oh gosh. You know, it doesn't look too bad. It definitely had sat at some point. You can see in here it's like very gross. But what are there, 2 gaskets on here? Or did this one split in half? That's weird. Float's not stuck. We'll check out these jets, and yeah, that orange gunk, that stuff is just completely settled in there. Like, I can move it with my finger, so let's go ahead and get that out and check out these jets. Well, I can see through it now, kind of cleaned up, so we'll spray some stuff through there anyways, but it didn't look too bad. Main jet looks fine. Alright, look at this. Look how filthy it is in there. Oh my gosh. So I think my theory of the air filter completely failing was true. Holy crap. Definitely blowing tons of gunk into there and just destroying those rings. Ugh. I'm gonna have to clean that quite well, so I'll see you in a bit. Alright, I had to get all down in there. It was just completely gummed up everywhere inside of this carburetor, so I've got her pretty cleaned up now. I'm gonna go ahead and put it all back together and let's see what happens. Alright, I got everything hooked up. I got the fuel on. I'm actually mad at myself for running it with the carburetor that dirty, especially I just put new rings in there, so I should have cleaned that carburetor out first. I should have known better, but I was just kind of mad at myself. I shouldn't have done that. So hopefully we didn't mess up the rings or get them too dirty, but I think we're going to be all right. Let's go ahead and try and start it, see if she idles a little better now, and we'll rev without being, struggling to get back down. So let's see what she does. That's better. Ah, it's much better. Now she's not just continuing to go up, so that's good. Alright, she sounds good. I think the next step is to put some fresh oil in there before we run her too much and put everything back together. But yeah, let's go ahead and change that oil real quick. Alright, this thing sits so low I had to jack it up to even fit my oil pan underneath it. Alright, so the oil looked good. Nothing was out of the ordinary there. I hooked up the drain bolt. Let's go ahead and fill her up. Make sure you use wet clutch oil. Nah, that's good. Right at the line. Alright, she's good to go. We should be able to ride her now. We got fresh oil in there. As far as I know, this is an oil filterless design. Just a simple air filter. Oil is all your basic maintenance, maybe valves, but these are very simple machines. That's why they're kind of fun to work on, because they're just so easy. So let's go ahead and let her warm up, and we'll take her for a little ride real quick. Alright, so she's idling a little too low. I think we need to make a little bit of adjustment on the throttle position real quick. Alright, I found it. So apparently this one is your idle screw, and this is your fuel mix screw. So all I did was turn that in about a half turn, and now she's good. Alright, so I've messed with her for a bit. Had a very inconsistent idle, and if I was like revving it or riding it somewhat hard and I let off the gas completely, it would completely die. The idle would be too low. So I ended up taking the carburetor back off and I never did take the needle out, clean out inside the needle. And I also noticed that the float height was really low on this thing. Like it was very low. So I ended up bumping that quite a bit higher to where I thought it should be. And now she's not dying when I give it a lot of gas and I slow down. So I really think I got her tuned. She's pretty much gutless. I mean, these things, they don't have much power. When they're stock, I mean, they really do suck as far as for adults go. I've had a KFX 50 and it had a lot more power, but it also had a few mods to it. I'm pretty sure it had a bigger carburetor, the better CDI, and like one other thing, it had a few mods that made it have a lot more power. I was able to at least do like a few little burnouts with me on top of it on the rocks. But unfortunately, this one's pretty much stock. I think the CDI is not stock though, because this thing really revs out. If you listen to it, like I have not been able to hit the rev limiter, and I'm afraid to go any higher. So listen how high this thing goes. So I'm pretty sure that's not, let me see. It is, let's see, DZE CDI, made in Argentina, I think. So I don't know if that's the stock. I'm going to assume it's not. So just something interesting about it, that it really does kind of rev higher on the higher end. So let's go ahead and get all the rest of the plastics on. Hopefully she's consistent enough that she'll be able to make some kid happy. And yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and put her back together. I think I'm going to call it on this one as far as mechanically speaking. It barely makes it up a hill with me on it. Like, you have to be in the higher RPMs, and you got to be really scooting. And even then, like, my hill's almost, it's not a 45, but it's like a 40-degree hill. And it barely makes it up there, man. It's not happy with me on it. So, much better for a kid, but anyways. Pretty goofy thing. Alright, so when I bought the Raptor, it came just like this. Everything kind of exposed, which is not ideal for your electric or to get a bunch of dirt up in your flywheel. So I went ahead and I ordered this piece, which looks like this. Goes right there. And it does have a gasket that goes on here. So I'm going to take this off real quick, which I think, yeah, it's just sitting on there. So let's go ahead and get this gasket on and get this cover on, make it look much better. There she is. There we go. Looks much better. Alright, the other thing I bought off eBay was this piece. The plastic shroud. Has your directional for your shifter, your transmission. It says drive and neutral. So it definitely makes it look much better with it on there. And this one's quite clean, which is nice. So hopefully this will just go right on. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Alright, she's all back together. Everything's on there as it should be. Got everything connected. Both brakes work. She's running good. Really just need to clean her up, put her online. Alright, here she is in the daylight. Looking pretty sharp. Got the number 5 on it. Somebody must have liked the number 5, but pretty clean machine other than being dirty, if you know what I mean. So let's go ahead and give this baby a wash, see what she looks like. Alright, she's all cleaned up. Let's take her for a ride. She's finalized. I think I got her tuned the way she needs to be. She's running pretty good, so let's see what she can do. It's not very much, I'll be honest. Yeah, it's cold today.
All right, she's warmed up now. That's full throttle. It's got a nice turning radius. I can make it up this hill now that I got plenty of gas in here. So I'm 155 pounds and it can make it up this hill with me on it, so not too bad. Put it in neutral real quick. The interesting thing about this quad is that it has no rev limiter. So you can really over rev it. Which is like fun for, you know, somebody's having a good time, but for little kids they can definitely blow up the engine. Alright, so that's it. That is the Yamaha Raptor 50 I picked up for $300. She's running plenty good enough to sell. The only thing I don't really like is the fact that the CDI is aftermarket and it has no rev limiter, but I'm going to leave that to the next person. Hopefully their kid doesn't blow it up. Maybe if they want to get an OEM CDI, they can, but they're quite limited on the rev limiter with the OEM one, so I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where if you respect the machine, it's perfectly fine, but I feel like a lot of people are buying these for younger kids, so it's kind of like, well, I'll let them decide, and you know, it is what it is. So I'm gonna put this one up for $1,200. They'll sell easily for $1,000, but I'm gonna shoot for $12, and that's it. What do you guys think? Was it worth my time? I think I have 550 bucks. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you want to like and subscribe, that'd be cool. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Hi guys, thanks for watching. This Raptor did end up selling the very next day for $1,200 for my asking price. So I was pretty excited. Ended up being a pretty good deal. So I'll see you in the next one.